And we're back. This is Arts Alive. I'm Linda Philippi, and my next guest is Tracy Ward. She's here as the new host of KLYC's Yamhill County History and Mystery. So welcome.
Thank you, Linda.
And I'm really excited to hear about your new show.
I'm really excited to be doing the new show. As you know, I did the book last year of Spooks to Spirits, which is, you know, a haunted travel guide. And it's been fortunate enough that I've been able to hook up with KLYC Radio, and they've gifted me the opportunity to do Yamhill County History and Mystery. So I had done so much research on every town. I mean, Amity and Yamhill and Carlton and Sheridan and Willamina, and there's so much history here. And so now I not only am I going to be covering, you know, just, history and mystery, I'm going to be covering alien sightings.
Oh, okay. The Trent Farm?
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
And definitely, and working with historians are going to be on every show. And then, of course, also we're going to have on people with their real life experiences.
Okay.
Believe it or not. You know, so you tune in, you're going to
like alien abductions and all of it. Okay, good.
All that. And Bigfoot.
Okay.
Sasquatch.
So you're going to kind of be Yamhill's answer to Art Bell.
Absolutely. It's coast to coast, but locally. So it'll be town to town.
Right. A to B. Yeah. I love it. That's exciting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's really, this first show is going to air Sunday night, the 24th will be the first show, and it's going to be from 8 to 9 o'clock at night. We're going to have a historian from the local historic society will be my first guest, and then we're going to have, the story is going to be the beginning of Yamhill County. Obviously and amazingly started in Lafayette. Most people really don't know that unless they've bought my book or actually do know that it was considered the Athens of Oregon. It was the Golden City.
Because of the locks and everything.
Oh, well, even before the locks, it was the very first town that the Peoria Party, another incredibly wonderful story, which we'll be covering in the first show, came from Peoria, Illinois, and came across and planted the first flag in Lafayette. And then they're trying to get the land to become part of the United States of America. At that time, it was shared with the British.
It was the Oregon Territories or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so we had the Canadian, and we had a lot of the traders, and there was a big stronghold that happened then. So it's a fascinating story of how that came to be. And at one point, there were more people in Lafayette than Portland.
Wow, I did not know that.
It is amazing.
I know that there was the big drama and there was a fire.
Oh, my goodness.
Right, and all the espionage and sabotage and all that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And what's really interesting is not only the sabotage and espionage, but the natural resources started drying up, and we are covering the curse of Lafayette and what happened, other than the beginning of Lafayette being this just amazing, amazing stop. And it was one of the main stops on the Oregon Trail. So it actually had a post-stop office, it had businesses. It did burn to the ground 3 different times. And we have beautiful steamboats that came up with the big paddle wheels, elegant people. It was truly a destination point. So you'd have people from Oregon City for their day, Sunday morning, they'd leave to come to Lafayette, which is just amazing. I mean, now you blink and you have driven through it. But the history behind Lafayette's amazing. And, you know, I have a love in my heart for the history because it's hard for me to tear away and focus on the mystery. But we are rich in this county with hauntings, sightings, you know, even in the woods, in the sky, in the corner of your
Where
closet.
there's moonshine, there's sightings, by golly.
Exactly. And so it's going to be so much fun because
I'm excited. This is great.
Yeah, and so I haven't moved on to my next book, but all of the information I have collected that were going to be parts of my next series of books are going to be topics on the show. So we're going to be talking about the murder quilt of Wilhelmina. We're going to talk about the underground city here, the Chinese underground city. We're going to talk about I mean, every town, Ghost Hills in Carlton, there's just amazing, amazing stories, and all the stories have such rich history. And so it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. And excited to have people on, and too, you know, some people think, oh, that's taboo, but what we're going to do is ask questions and hear people tell about what their real true experiences have been. And it truly is, believe it or not, you know, I mean, we're just going to present an idea, and hopefully people are going to embrace it and love it and tune in and make it like when we were kids. Remember, we would race home to listen to some show that was incredibly fun to hear. I remember for me it was Dr. Demento when I was a kid. But it's going to be fascinating. We're working on, hopefully we're going to have the Indian tribal historian on, and we'll be talking about their history and folklore. McMiniman's historian will be on.
Okay, good. Yeah.
You know, and so we're going to have so much great material, and then the spooky stuff is going to be pretty darn spooky because, you know, we've got a pretty spooky area here. So
you feel like you've got sort of, I mean, this isn't just a short-term thing. You can go on and on with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's going to be hard to move from one city to the next because everyone, Dayton was really becoming prominent. They fought for the county seat before McMinnville won it from Lafayette. And of course, that's a whole nother ball of wax, you know, and then that's where sabotage comes in, and every town has such, I mean, even the Kelty House in you know, and the little Roadhouse Brew Pub. Here we have McMiniman's, we've got La Rumbla, we've got the Serendipities. I mean, all of these places are incredibly visited. You know.
Well, you know, you were talking about the whole Chinese underground. Have you spoken with Matt Warwick?
Oh, sure. I've been down there and filmed some.
Okay, so you know what that's all about.
Yeah, and that's amazing. That whole city block is so well saturated with history and mystery that a lot of the people that of his family members actually won't even come and stay because they've had so many personal experiences.
You know, it's funny because when we were just talking about this, I flashed on an episode that I heard about, God, must have been 15 years ago, down in that basement. Yeah, interesting, huh?
And what's really fun about doing a story like that is that even though we can't go to our own Chinese underground, you can still experience it by going to McMiniman's Cellar Bar or going to the Velvet, the new tea room. And so that's very, very cool because that really is, you're down there. And even though it looks a little hip and groovy and changed around a bit.
The idea that people had to be off the street and couldn't under the street. I mean,
at dark.
Isn't that just amazing?
At dark. But the businesses, as much as they did not want to see the Chinese workers, still wanted their services. And so they thought, well, you know what, we don't care about what's underneath us, and allowed them to tunnel throughout. And then they're still doing the laundry, they're still doing, you know, whatever that needed to be done for, you know, the horses and whatever, but unseen. You know, and so, and it was very frightening for them to be,
of course,
above ground. And they did, I believe it was, well, I think it was 1886, and I could be wrong a couple of years, where the Chinese Exclusion Act came into play because there just wasn't much work. And so all the guys are out of work and they're upset that the Chinese are, tunneling, doing the railroads, and they're doing all this beautiful work, and they're so well skilled at what they're doing. And so they started being a target. And so if they were caught, they had the little ponytail that went down their back.
The queue.
The queue. And if they were captured, all the cowboys would have to do at the time would be cut off their queue, and then they would be ostracized by their own people, because that was their show of, solidarity to their people. So, I mean, they went through really quite a bit, and it's interesting. The history is fascinating. And it just goes on and on.
You could write a book.
I could. That's a good idea. I think I will.
Because you do have more books planned in your series.
I do. I do. And I got caught up, and I took a year off and got to do my television show, Haunted Yam Hill, which was lovely. And I did my first book, and then I had to go back to work. So shame on me.
Well, there's a writer, I don't know if you've heard of, I'm sure you have, David McCullough. And he's, gosh, I think he's in his 80s now, but he's written a lot of books. And our book group read one. It's called The Greater Journey, and it was about Americans who went to Paris in, between 1830 and 1900. Really fascinating book.
Really?
But he said the hardest thing to do is to force myself at some point to stop doing research, because you follow a thread and it leads you down another path. Where do you stop?
Exactly.
And at some point you have to just say, okay, I have to write this stuff down now.
Oh, yeah. And
I'm sure it's the same for you, because you can interview and and it just goes on and on.
And right, and to get to where I need to be, you've got 200 stories, and you're going to pick 18 that you're going to do. And then you have to verify, because if you're doing the history, you want to have documentation of everything you're talking about. And then if you're doing the mystery, you want to connect the dots, because if it's history and mystery, we can't just go all willy-nilly and talk about somebody's haunted house and it's something they bought at a garage sale and brought home. You want to say, well, this could possibly be the spirit of.
So have you found that it's pretty straightforward to try to track some of that stuff, like the documentation is there?
Yeah, there is. There's actually quite a bit of documentation, but then there's a lot of very physical and visual hauntings that you wouldn't expect. I mean, our little camera crew, when we were out 9 different times, we were haunted 5.
Wow.
We had hauntings.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was really.
But people don't necessarily give you their social security card and say, here's who I am.
Exactly. And then you kind of got to do the homework. But normally the people that own the buildings, they've got a clue, and then you take that clue and the time that was built and who built it, and then you go back to the Historic Society, and then you start going through all the books and talking to the great wealth of knowledge that all the women that sit there and make sure that those books stay intact and that they're lovely. And then the story starts to grow and gets richer and richer and so much fun that you don't ever want to leave. It's like, I'm pitching a tent, I'm staying here. But it's like even the museum out there in Lafayette, the story of Eva Burbank, who died at 19 and from a very affluent family, had that beautiful, beautiful home. As you go through the dip, you see it off to your right.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
And when she passed away, the family fell apart. I mean, it was over. But she was one of the most elite and well-respected pianists of our time for Oregon in that time, at the age of 17.
Wow.
And so her father had built for her this beautiful piano in New York, and it came by clipper ship, and then it came by wagon, and it came for her 18th birthday. It was her most profoundly loved gift. It's over at the museum.
That's amazing.
And it plays.
Oh my goodness sakes. Tracy, we're out of time, and I can't wait to hear your show, and I hopefully everybody's going to be tuning in and you'll get a lot of positive response to that.
KLYC 1260 Sunday night between 8 and 9 p.m.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.